Okay, this time we're going to take a look at sociological methods of research, talk about what is the scientific method and what are some of the component parts. If you remember, we said sociology is a science. It's a social science, similar to psychology or anthropology, where we study people and behavior. And it's these types of research methods that make us a science. Okay, it's by following the rules of the scientific method of research. So let's take a look at the steps that people follow when they follow the scientific method. Scientific method's a systematic, organized series of steps, and you see these on the screen that ensure you maximum objectivity and consistency when you're researching. So they're, basically these steps that we follow. We first define the problem, and defining the problem could be simply, coming up with what area it is we're going to want to look at. Okay, for example, is there a difference in pay between men and women in the workplace? Does teenage pregnancy increase the risk of poverty? That kind of thing. So we're going to look at the problem, then we're going to review the literature, find out what's already been done, what's out there. Eventually, we form our hypothesis. We'll talk a little bit more about this in just a minute. And then after we decide on a hypothesis, we're going to select a research design. In other words, what method of research are we going to use to find our data, to get our data? And then once we get the data, we're going to analyze it and develop a conclusion. So there, in a nutshell, you kind of have the basics of the scientific method of research. Now, I said that we would concentrate a little bit more on the hypothesis here in a minute. Some of the concepts involved in the hypothesis. That's what we're going to look at real quick. One of the concepts you have to examine is what we call the independent variable. That's the most important part of the research. The independent variable is the concept that's being examined or manipulated or changed by the experimenter. Okay, so let's just take that as a definition for now and kind of go from there. Okay, it's the concept being examined or manipulated by the experimenter. The dependent variable is the concept which may or may not be altered as a result of the independent variable. Okay, so it's kind of a cause and effect type deal. If you think of the independent variable as the cause of something, the dependent variable, the potential effect. So for example, let's talk about things like does age impact a person's quality of life? Okay, that would be a question that we could look at. Maybe we form a hypothesis and we could say, for example, older people enjoy life more than younger people. Okay, older people enjoy life more than younger people. Now that would be a hypothesis. We're basically making a statement of prediction. All right. Now, the thing in finding the independent and the dependent variable, a lot of people have trouble with these two, and kind of my secret to success on this is a little statement. Okay, if you can kind of fill in the blanks of the statement, we are studying the effect of blank upon blank. Now let me read that hypothesis again, okay? Older people enjoy life more than younger people. Well, what are we studying? We're studying the effect of age, whether it be old or young, upon enjoyment of life. We're studying the effect of age upon enjoyment of life. Now, when you fill in these two blanks, the first blank is the independent variable, the second blank is the dependent variable. So in that particular example, age would be the independent variable, and the dependent variable would be enjoyment of life. Okay, let's take another example here. Let's say example hypothesis. An increase in violence on television will result in an increase in violent crime within America. Okay, now that's a prediction. Okay, if we fill in the blanks here, we are studying the effect of blank upon blank? Well, we're studying the effect of violence on TV upon violent crimes in America. So there you again have the independent and the dependent variables. All right. Now, one other concept that we need to focus on here when we talk about like the hypothesis in the study, the research study, is something called an operational definition. Now, I know the book has a different maybe definition for this, but in my mind, an operational definition is a method of measuring a concept and then using that measurement as a definition for the concept. Okay? I always use kind of a psychological example here, but intelligence or IQ. How do you know if somebody's intelligent or not? Intelligence is hard to describe. Okay, there's multiple ways of describing intelligence. So many years ago, people came up with a test, and they said, okay, if you can do well on this test, we're going to say that you're intelligent. Well, what are they doing? Well, they're coming up with a method of measuring the concept, measurement of IQ, and then they're using that measurement as a definition for the concept. So think of an operational definition as a working definition. It's not perfect or by any stretch, but things like if we wanted to study people's happiness or their social status, or if we wanted to talk about prejudice or poverty, there has to be some way to define those things so that we can literally say, okay, this person is in that situation, this person is not. That's the purpose of an operational definition. Okay, with those things in mind, let's go ahead and talk about selecting research designs. In terms of strategies, research strategies, there's basically two different types. There's what we call the qualitative analysis and there's quantitative analysis. Now, in those two words, you see the word quality and you see the word quantity. Okay, that's what we're really looking at here. Quantitative analysis, now I'm skipping, okay, I'm going down to the bottom one first, but quantitative analysis using statistics or numbers, numerical evaluations, to kind of come up with your answer. For example, if we wanted to study who has the best fans, the Chicago Cubs or the Chicago White Sox? Well, we could look at statistics and say, okay, who attends, who has the highest attendance rate at their home games? And we could say, okay, you know, one team has more attendance than the other, so they must have the best fans. But that's using quantity as a sole purpose there. For example, you know, I went to a Chicago White Sox game years ago, but I didn't go to see the White Sox. I actually went to see the team they were playing. So counting me as one of their fans is not necessarily totally accurate. The other thing is the quantity. When you use statistics, you're not sometimes getting the more in-depth info. For example, Chicago Cubs fans. Let's face it, the Cubs have not won the World Series since, I think, the time of Columbus, so it's been a long time. But Cubs fans are known for their loyalty. I mean, they lose year after year after year, but yet they keep coming back. They always talk about next year. So they are very loyal to their team. Now, if we look at quantity or statistics, basically, alone, we might not get that information. So by using things like interviews or surveys, things like that, then we can come up with even more information about whatever the topic is we're looking at. We might get info that we ordinarily would have missed if we were simply studying statistics. Okay, so qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. Last thing we'll mention here on this one is the idea of applied and basic research. When you talk about sociology and you're talking about people, there's a number of things you can look at. For example, applied research basically has clear practical applications. In other words, you can use it. Research on child care, practices. That has a purpose. That has use. Okay, you can use that information to make life better in the future for maybe little kids or for parents, and such. Basic research might explore questions that you're curious about, but as far as changing your lifestyle, it's probably not going to do it. Okay, this couple seems to be going at it pretty good here. Studying how kissing changes when you get older, sure, might be interesting, but so what? Who cares? All right, but it's basic research. So there are, differences in the types of research studies that you will see in sociology. All right, we'll stop at that point.